Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nabila, and today we'll be exploring cultural and ethical issues in the assessment of Malaysian primary ESL classrooms. Historically, schools in Malaysia have always been using standardized exams in order to assess the students, and often these exams are based on the Western models. So at times, or most of the times, this approach does not consider the student's background or the localized environment of the students. So, for example, sometimes the teacher use direct questioning, such as, "Why did you do this?" or "Why did that happen?" So these questions are like some sort of attack to the students, and maybe they feel like they are unsafe or threatened when they are facing these kind of questions, or when they do personal reflection tasks, whereby sometimes they need to involve deep emotional feelings. They might not be ready yet for those kind of feelings. For the current situations that we are facing in regards to this issue is, firstly, we are using Western-centric content. So this is an issue because not all students can relate to this kind of contents. So if the student have access to internet or have access to the social media, so it might be easier for them to relate and they can answer, or they can process those content better. But for some students, it might not be the case. And there could be bias in tasks from the teacher's side, which will favor certain groups over another. And the teacher is also assuming the students have prior knowledge of the content, but this is not the case, especially for students who are not exposed to those kind of content. And also, there is an overemphasis on accuracy for some teachers because they want the students to always answer it correctly, and this could instill fear in the students to actually use the language, and ultimately the students feel so fearful that they do not even want to try. The challenges that we are facing in terms of this issue is, firstly, lack of inclusivity. This mostly occur in test design, whereby maybe the questions do not consider the student's cultural background and only ask questions that are Western influence. And secondly, is from the ethical point of view, is like assessment that might breach students' confidentiality or privacy, such as asking the friend to mark their paper, and if the marks are low, they might be bullied for it. And thirdly is language or dialect bias. So for students who study English as a very close language to them, or use Malay, which is also the main medium in schools. So these students can translate English better because those languages are often used in classrooms. But for those who use other dialects, it's more difficult for them to translate to English. And lastly is teacher bias. So sometimes this happen unconsciously because because sometimes teachers look at the student's background and they already think or assume that the student cannot do this good. So it affect the teacher's judgment, and they already decided to give lower marks for the students. So one way to approach this issue is by looking at the Rukun Madani, which is hormat or respect. So even though they are students who are younger, they deserve to be respected. And firstly, how we could do is we can design culturally inclusive tasks by considering the backgrounds of all the students. So instead of just incorporating Western-based tasks. And second is provide alternative assessment options. So we do not just neglect the students who can do the Western-based task. We include both tasks, so we could cater to to higher proficiency level students and the lower ones as well. And teachers also is important for them to receive training on ethical assessment practices so that it can ensure that the teachers do not breach the confidentiality or the privacy of the students and make them face negative impacts from that, such as emotional or even getting bullied, and sometimes physical implications. And lastly is we can encourage student voice by involving them in self assessments or choosing topics that they can relate to, because we want to incorporate the hormat or respect based on rukun madani. So as the conclusion, it is most important to create an inclusive classroom which considers the students' multicultural backgrounds, and this is according to the rukun madani of respect or hormat, and this will eventually create an environment that is suitable for everyone, regardless of their background, to actually learn and become a better individual.